All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another KC Sports Report live stream. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I'm joined by Josh Fan and possibly Lucas Murphy later. We're just going to have to wait and see. But Josh, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, Michael. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's crazy that we play the Ravens this Sunday. I feel like it was just yesterday that we just beat the Browns. So it's just like the weeks are starting to move very quickly.
Yep.
And honestly, before we get into into what we're going to talk about for this video, I want to go over the injury report for week 2. According to
doesn't
the
look
Chiefs
good for the Ravens.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about it. But we'll go over the Chiefs side first. Austin Blythe still has that hernia, so he's not going to play. Colin Saunders was limited in practice. Actually, he was a full participant in practice today. Frank Clark was a full participant in practice with the hamstring. Again, Josh's favorite guy on the team. Mike Dana was a full participant with a groin injury. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a full participant with an ankle injury. Tyreek Hill had a toe injury, but he was a full participant in practice on Thursday. And Derek Nottie was a full participant with a hip injury on Thursday. Now, getting over to the Ravens side of things, this is where it gets hectic. Marquise Brown did not practice on Wednesday with an ankle injury. Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle, did not practice with an ankle injury yesterday. Chris Westry did not practice with a knee injury. He's the cornerback. Derek Wolfe, defensive end, did not practice yesterday with a back and a hip injury. Dalen Hayes, knee, limited in practice on Wednesday. Marlon Humphrey, back injury. He was limited on Wednesday. And then Jimmy Smith was limited in practice on Wednesday with an ankle injury. Oh, here he is. Lucas Murphy's backstage. What is going on? What a grand entrance.
Boom! Here I am.
Well, first of all, happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Lucas.
Appreciate it, guys. It means a lot. It really does.
Hey, I'm just glad that we get to spend it with you and talk some Chiefs Ravens. I just went over the injury report, and as Josh said it, the Ravens are banged up. But why don't we go with Josh first, and what are your takes on the injuries?
Well, Westry, the cornerback for the Ravens, he had a torn meniscus, it sounds like. So, he's out. Ronnie Stanley doesn't sound good for him. Marquise Brown doesn't sound good for him, especially if those guys don't practice tomorrow. You're pretty much going to know. And even if they do play in this game, I think it's obvious they're not going to be at 100%. The Ravens are just beat up. And I talked about this with Kevin Ostreicher on the video I put out today. Kevin Ostreicher, he does the Locked On Ravens podcast and writes for Ravens Wire, but he was like, just when you look at the injuries, it's really wrong place, wrong time for the Ravens. Like, he has zero confidence really in them is basically what I took from him. But I will say that, and I said this to him, that it almost seems like the Ravens are going into this game playing with house money because they know, they're shorthanded. They have a lot of injuries, but Lamar Jackson, he's got a chip on his shoulder. They're playing with house money. And if the Chiefs coming in this game thinking, oh, the Ravens have a bunch of injuries, this will be a piece of cake, and they get caught off guard, you could be looking at a close game heading into the fourth quarter, and who knows what happens from there.
Mm-hmm. Lucas, what's your thoughts on the injuries?
Staley, I think, is the big one for me because I think that can open the door for, how we decide to blitz them. It sounds like to me that would be Chris Jones on that side, and man, I think that could be really in our favor, especially with how mobile, and we've seen it with, Lamar Jackson, even in that Raiders game, when he gets an open field, holy crap, that's, legitimately the human joystick. So,
yeah.
I think with the injuries, though, it's compounding in the running backs. I think it's going to be dumbified down for Freeman, who finally got promoted. But yeah, I think there's way more injuries than they anticipated, obviously. And I think going into this game, I think the one thing that they still have going for them is the fact that it's going to be home field advantage. But man, they have some tremendous injuries and veteran leadership too.
Mm-hmm. Is Le'Veon Bell their starter right now?
No, it's what is his name? It's like Travonta something or Tyson.
Well, there's Tyson Williams is their
Tyson
starter,
Williams,
who actually had a real nice game against the Raiders. Then behind him, there's Latavius Murray, who, literally just signed. He's still getting his feet under him. And Le'Veon Bell is still on the practice squad.
Yeah, I think they against the Raiders. I think there was a play where they were like, "Hey, Latavius Murray, we're literally going to hand you the ball, just run in the end zone." Like, I don't know if outside of that, if they gave him the ball or not.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
honestly,
he
go ahead.
actually did get like 10 carries, I think,
Did
but
he?
he only had like a 2.8 yards per carry average. So I mean, like he was thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and Le'Veon hasn't made it off their practice squad yet.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Le'Veon Bell might stay there, but Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, it's a matchup that the media loves to hype up when, it really isn't a rivalry. In order for it to be a rivalry, Lamar Jackson's going to have to win one of these games. Mahomes is 3-0 against Lamar Jackson in his career. I remember that 2018 game at Arrowhead. Mahomes let a comeback drive, that 4th and 9 throw to Tyreek Hill. Still one of the best plays he's ever made. 2019, I think it was week 2 or week 3 at home. They're able to squeak out a win. And then last year, I think it was Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs blew them out. No, it was Monday Night Football. The Chiefs blew them out. And it's just like Lamar Jackson has just been tearing it up through the league. I mean, he won league MVP. I think his record against non-Chiefs teams is like 30-5 or something crazy like that. So it's just like his one kryptonite is Patrick Mahomes. So, going into this game, I think that's a matchup to look at. But also, like, is it really fair to call this a rivalry when Lamar Jackson's never beat Patrick Mahomes? Why don't we go, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, they've tried to do this. They tried to force this, and they've done it with a few other QBs too, when it's just clear and obvious that Mahomes is in a completely different stratosphere than all these guys. And obviously the NFL, they have to do that. The media, they have to do that because they need to give themselves something to talk about. But I mean, we all know Mahomes is head and shoulders above Lamar, but Lamar Jackson is still an incredible quarterback. I don't want to take that away from him, but his play style it can only take you so far, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we'll get to it too, but I think it's going to speak volumes in the significance of getting the Honey Badger back in this game for this reason exactly. Because if he was out one more week, I would be absolutely just dreading it completely, just because you're going to need someone to be able to dictate. I think Anthony Hitchens does a good job, telling the D line and kind of lining them guys up. But from the grand scheme of things, the Honey Badger is going to be there to kind of really help him out. And I think that is just going to speak volumes to what he does, and we're going to see that this week.
Well, Lucas, you mentioned this a couple minutes ago. One of the biggest mismatches on this game is Chris Jones versus whoever the backup left tackle is. Because if it's not Ronnie Stanley, I mean, Chris Jones is going to have like 3 sacks, maybe more. I mean, I think that you're not even going to have to blitz because they don't have that anchor, that cornerstone on the offensive line. And I mean, maybe this is an Orlando Brown sort of revenge kind of game. I'm sure that he's going to be fired up. Go ahead, Josh.
I wanted to say,
are you tired?
Well, no, no.
Okay.
Well, a little bit. No,
okay.
Alejandro Villanueva is also a player on their offensive line that looked really, really bad against the Raiders. And I don't want to say this because it goes against my agenda, but I mean, if Frank Clark is going up against him,
we got him, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. Finally,
he looked really bad.
Crack.
Alejandro looked really bad, so maybe Frank Clark takes advantage of that, or they just put Chris Jones over on that side and let him go to work.
Good God.
I'll be interested because I think, and hear me out. Seriously, hear me out. I think Frank Clark is going to come out with a vengeance, and he may not get pushed out 10 yards, maybe only 5 yards this game. But I think what Frank Clark does is he may not get the sacks. He may not get the sacks, but what I think that does is that allows for those other guys to kind of work their way in and do some different things too. And I really do think Frank Clark is going to add a little bit to this defense, just because you do have to at least account for him, where last week maybe, Mike Dana, you don't necessarily have to account for because you're still trying to figure out what he's going to do. Or at least, Frank Clark, it has a motor, and I mean, you're at least going to get something from him. So I think they're going to at least have to account for Frank Clark.
Hopefully you're right. I mean, maybe Frank Clark can finally show something. I mean, we've talked about this in the past. The expectations are pretty low, but maybe he surprises us in this game because the Ravens offensive line, like the majority of their team, is beat up. And if there's ever a game that you need to get under control and get back on the swing of things, it is this game. Because, I think that even though the Ravens are banged up, it's not going to be a cakewalk like Josh alluded to. It's going to be a game that you're going to have to fight in. And I think that, honestly, when we're looking at matchups and mismatches, I think that this Chiefs offense going up against their secondary is going to be a big matchup to watch because Marlon Humphrey may or may not play. I think Marcus Peters, didn't he tear his ACL?
Tears ACL.
That secondary is depleted. So be on the lookout. And you want to, Josh, mention the Mecole Hardman stat.
I will in 1 second. I did want to add one more note on Frank Clark, though. He's got to show something. Like, he has to, because like you said, Michael, anything from him is a pleasant surprise at this point. But if he wants to change that narrative, this is the time to do it. And, he should be coming out with the vengeance because we've been talking about this all year long. But I'm also hesitant because Clark is a guy that, there were so many times where there was a backup tackle. You heard it, Michael. I know it's annoying. There were so many times they went up against a backup left tackle last year and we're like, oh, this is a big Frank Clark game coming, and just nothing happened. Or how many times did we say, oh, Frank Clark consistently owned Colton Miller when he was in Seattle, and then they play the Raiders and Colton Miller completely shuts down Frank Clark. So he's got to show something, and I hope he does, even though it goes against my agenda. But
I mean,
you want them
go finish your thought.
No, it's okay, because I was going to talk about the Mecole Hardman stat Michael brought up, but if you have something else to add there, go ahead.
Well, and I was going to, I do believe 100% Frank Clark's playing for his next contract this year. And, he's like you said, he's going to have to do something, because if he wants to play for somebody else realistically, because I just don't see him being on the Chiefs next year. I really don't. And if he's, wanting to continue on with his career and get paid again, he's going to have to show something. At least, for me, I think realistically, if he can get 8 sacks, then that's good for him. But yeah, I think he's got to start now because he's got a lot of baggage coming with him too.
Okay. Yep. Really, really quickly, I wanted to address a few things. Shout out LA Original. I'm sorry I missed yesterday's live stream. We do like a AFC West roundtable kind of thing. So I will get those picks to you later, but also I wanted to address this comment right here. Cole asks, are you going to do streams every Friday like you did last season? I love to talk football and predict games every week. Kind of segueing into some recent news that's happened with me. I took a job. I'm now a producer at 810 Sports Radio, so that's going to be every Friday night. So I can't do live streams every Friday now, but I think that's an exciting job to take. And I'll try to do some of these like Kingdom Call-In live streams on maybe a Saturday here or there, but it's just going to be Thursday and then Sunday or Monday after the game.
Hey, take a side. Congratulations, man. Seriously, that's so awesome. And I was talking to Blake today. We did a fantasy talk, and I was talking to him about what you're going to be doing, man. And that's incredible. So congrats to you, man, for real.
Appreciate it. I'm just trying to do everything that I can to get in this industry, and I think that this is a really good start. A really good start, to say the least.
For sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Anyway, getting back to the important thing, do you think that going into this game, this is a make or break game for the Ravens? Because I think that, with the injuries they have and the division they're in, Cleveland, the Steelers are great on Sunday. Do you think that this is a must-win game for the Ravens? Lucas, why don't we go with you first, since you look a little bit perturbed?
I don't think so. Only because I think that as the season progresses, they will get some guys back. Obviously not the ACL tears, but I think once they start to figure out what they have, I think this team is very lethal. You still do have Marquise Brown. You still have Mark Andrews. Sammy Watkins has at least played more than one game. So if he can continue to stay on the field and be healthy, he does still have the weapons. So I'm not saying that this offense isn't going to score at times. They did put up a decent number in that Raiders game too. It just came down to Lamar holding on to the football. So I really think this team still has the potential to do something. After going to and watching that Cleveland game live, though, man, Cleveland, if they can play like that, against multiple teams. I mean, they're my favorite right now. I'm going to keep an eye on the Steelers, but yeah, to kind of wrap it back around, I do not think that this is a make or break for the Ravens.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's early in the season. There's an extra game this year. They're going to get some guys back, like Lucas said. And I mean, no one's really expecting them to beat the Chiefs. So, I mean, again, I kind of see them as a team that's playing with house money right now. You know, if they win, you know, it's going to be great. It's going to be gravy. But if they don't, you know, many people weren't expecting them to win anyway. They move on. And starting out 0-2 isn't going to derail their whole season. So I think they'll be all right.
You know, here's my thing too, and to kind of piggyback off of that, I think honestly there's more pressure on the Chiefs because, and the reason I say that is because I think there's going to be more of an opportunity to lose like the number 1 seed. And I think this game is one of those important ones that the Chiefs have to win because of that. Where I think if Baltimore doesn't win, then they still have a chance at a wild card and things like that, where the Chiefs definitely want home field advantage. They want that 1 seed. So I think there's a little bit more pressure on the Chiefs to win. And let as much as that is or whatever, but I think if you really had to say it, I think the Chiefs definitely need to win this game for that reason.
So do you think that it's going to come down to Chiefs Ravens for the 1 seed? Is that what you were saying with this?
No, but I'm saying I think
Okay.
it could have implications where another AFC team could potentially have a good record, and they could be fighting for that 1 spot. And this game could have implications on if the Chiefs win that. Let's say I'm just going to use the Browns as an example. Let's say the Browns end up beating the Ravens multiple times, then that plays a role in that as far as getting that 1 seed, even though head to head we beat the Browns. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think eventually there could be implications in that aspect that, for us trying to get that 1 seed, hopefully, all the teams that we match up against, we end up winning.
Well, I'll tell you what, really quickly, going over to the AFC North and which team that I think is going to win that division, the Steelers have a good defense, but that offense will not be able to keep up with the Browns offense. I mean, heck, we almost didn't catch up with that Browns offense. So it's just like, I think the Browns are the favorites to win that division, and who knows? I mean, this game, like you said, could have implications because let's say the Ravens and the Browns split, right? And we lose to the Ravens. If the Ravens get some of these guys back, I mean, realistically, they're still probably a top 5 team in the AFC. So, I mean, you really never know how that's going to shake out, but I think that, these are the big games you have to win. I do agree with that. But, Josh put this stat on Twitter earlier. Talk about Mecole Hardman really quickly.
Well, I do think it can be a big Mecole Hardman game, even though Mecole Hardman has been disappointing a while. He's another one of those players. People say it could be a big Mecole Hardman game, and then the big Mecole Hardman game never happens. But I did some research, and 16% of Mecole Hardman's career receiving yards have come against one team, which is the Baltimore Ravens, on just 6 catches. In 6 catches, he has 178 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens. So they've just failed to cover him. Their defensive coordinator mentioned today how they want to do their best to cover Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill because if they don't, they're not going to win, which, yes, is true. But I'm sitting here thinking, how does Mecole Hardman not even get a mention there? Because he's a guy that's killed you in both those games. And really, Mecole Hardman is in both the Ravens games over the past 2 years, he made the one big touchdown play that just really put the game out of reach for the Ravens early on.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I could see Mecole Hardman having a huge game because if they do try to take away Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, but I mean, well, actually, how are they going to do that? They don't have the personnel to do that. Like, do you realistically think that they could take away, Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill?
No, not really. I mean, you can only hope. You can only hope to cover them for so long. Like with Tyreek Hill, like there's some players out there that can do a decent job covering him, but at some point he's going to beat you for a game. Like at some point it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Hey, can I take a second and thank everybody in the comment section for the birthday wishes? Because I'm seeing it's blowing up. Aaron, appreciate it, man. J-Man, thank you guys. Everybody, appreciate it so much.
Honestly, Ron just asked if there's any contest to win Chiefs tickets. I need to start one of those. I do not have one right now. But going back to Mecole Hardman and that whole can anyone stop this Chiefs offense thing, I think that the Chiefs need to have the game plan of going out and trying to get ahead. Because the Ravens, when they do win games and how they've done it over the past couple years under the Lamar Jackson reign, they have to get ahead. Lamar Jackson coming back into games, it's really tough because, I mean, a mobile quarterback and a guy that runs first, you really need to get a lead and just run the ball to keep it. But, they don't really have the running backs to run it effectively at this point. And so they're going to be relying heavily on Lamar Jackson. So in terms of a Chiefs win, why don't we go with Josh first?
Sorry, Michael, can you repeat that real quick, what your question was?
Yeah, so I was talking about how in the past the Ravens have jumped on top of teams, and that's how they win the majority of their games. So what do you think the Chiefs have to do to win this game?
Really, they just need to take advantage of the Ravens, while they're down in these spots that guys have went down. LJ Fort was a capable linebacker for them, and their defensive line, well, I think they added to it this year. I think the Chiefs need to use their offensive line and see if they, can be effective with the run game early, take advantage of that. Ravens are probably expecting the Chiefs to beat them downfield because that's how they've always done it. But now that the Chiefs may be capable of running it down their throats a little bit more, I would like to see them do that, try that out, maybe catch the Ravens off guard. And that can open up the pass too. And then they can do the same thing that they've done in the past where, maybe it's two runs with Clyde. He gets 10 yards each time. And all of a sudden they're unleashing it deep. All of a sudden you have a touchdown. It's a 7-0 game. Defense does their job. They come out, they score again. All of a sudden it's 14-0. And then from there, it's one of those classic Chiefs games where they go up big, they explode for a bunch of points in a single quarter, and then they kind of let the Ravens back in, make it a little bit interesting, but ultimately they win the game.
Okay. Lucas, how about you?
For me, it's if the Chiefs can get up and apply pressure to Lamar. I think we saw a little bit of that in that Raiders game when they applied the pressure and forced him to kind of get out into space. And his ability to run it is incredible, but, we're seeing him fumble the football. And when you're asking him to really make some passes too, I think there's some question marks around that. So I think if the Chiefs can get up early in whatever fashion, whether it's 14 points, 21 points or something, and you're really making him try to move the football, I think that's where the Chiefs have the upper hand because I think that's where we've always kind of been better in that is that he, kind of gets that pressure put on him and he just can't live up to that hype. So that's my thing is if he can, and I kind of want to bounce off of what Josh said too. That was going to be my question to you guys. I still think the front seven is insane on that defense for the Ravens. Do you think Clyde actually can perform? Because I have like this weird feeling he might actually go off this game. But, I mean, they got, like, Calais Campbell. They got Justin Houston. Patrick Queen is a freak of a linebacker. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Clyde?
He actually was really quickly on the injury list with an ankle injury, but he was a full participant in practice, so shouldn't be too much to be concerned about. But why don't you go ahead, Josh?
So I actually made a video about Clyde today. I don't know if either of you
saw it,
but
did.
Yeah, I was just kind of talking about how I'm disappointed in the fact that we haven't really seen him become that guy that turns these really should be 1 or 2 yard runs into 6 or 7 yard runs, or make something out of nothing. And I mentioned how Carrington Harrison at 610 Sports Radio brought that up on his radio show, The Drive. That when is Clyde going to show us that wow ability to, break off some of these long ones and, turn these 2 or 3 yard runs into something else? Just justify that first round draft status, because we haven't seen a whole lot of that yet. So I'm really hoping in this Ravens game, because I think we can admit that in the Browns game, his vision was very poor. He was not not taking the yards that were given to him in that game. So I hope he does something now, and maybe they run a little bit more power with him and see if he can get those tough yards. But I've been largely unimpressed with his ability to get yards when they're running up the middle. He gets stuffed rather easily. Sometimes a lot of that is because of the blocking. Like I remember a play in particular against the Browns where I think it was Malik Jackson just immediately stuffed him, and there's really nothing he could do because the Browns D line is very good. But the offensive line, they'll take more time to gel. Did I say Browns offensive line? Chiefs offensive line. They'll take time to gel, and then they'll eventually start opening holes wide. But we'll have to see if he actually commits to hitting them and doing his job.
Yeah, honestly, let me really quickly jump in on the whole Clyde thing. I think Clyde could have a good game in this game because they might try to throw off the Ravens by running the ball, but I also think that, Clyde has been disappointing in a sense that, hey, we haven't really seen anything from you. Like, I get it. Our offensive line was pretty bad last year. And even this year, it's going to take some time. But, when you have been in space, you're not breaking away from anyone. And you were so good at getting yards after the initial hit last year. Why aren't we seeing that this year? Why aren't we seeing, I guess it's been one game, so we'll cut him some slack, but why aren't we seeing an improvement? I think that honestly, an area that they should very heavily target Clyde is in the receiving game. I think that he should catch like 15, not 15. I think he should catch 5 to 10 passes out of the flat every game. I think that is a play you can run consistently. They're not going to stop it. You can screen pass all day. I mean, I think that Clyde has got to get in a position that he can kind of get back on track, so to speak. What do you think?
Yeah,
Lucas? What? No, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna throw in real quick. Yeah, I want to see something out of him that makes you go, wow. Like this is why the Chiefs drafted Clyde in the first round, and we haven't seen that because there's so many guys that can do what Clyde can do that were not even drafted. I'm just, like I've said, what can Clyde do that these league average running backs can't do? Like, what makes him better than what makes Clyde better than what year was it? Like 2017 Spencer Ware. Like, I want to see something from him.
I'm sensing a little Frank Clark vibe from.
I was going to say, Josh coming in heavy with that.
I don't target Clyde nearly as much as I do.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get to that point.
I don't know. I'm a Clyde pro guy. I think Clyde. I think he provides enough to this offense where I think he'll eventually start to display the reason why we got him. And I think that it'll expose itself. I think we just got to give it a little bit of time. He has been injured, injured quite a bit. I mean, his groin, now his ankle. I think ankle maybe twice. So I think once we really start to see him stay consistent, that's where we'll start to see him. And I think his versatility is what his game is all about. Being able, I mean, in that Browns game, he lined up out in the receiver position, out on the outside multiple times. Yeah, they motioned him a lot, but still the fact that he was lined up out there, I mean, that tells you that he has the ability to catch the football and do some different stuff. So I agree with Michael. I think if they can continue to provide, quick dump offs or even some screens, we didn't see hardly, maybe even one screen in that first game. So it'll be interesting to see if shocking. If maybe that gets incorporated into this one, because you'll get an aggressive front seven and you catch them off guard, in a blitz or something. And, it really opens it up for Clyde. And I'm just excited to see what he can do. And this is one of the toughest defenses he's going to face, just because outside of, some of those injuries, I mean, Patrick Queen's a monster, and that linebacker group is really good. And then, Calais Campbell is just a huge human being. And so our front line is going to have a good test this week. So I don't want to discredit, what they still have. And that's why I think this game could still be, close to like we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. And I think that, Clyde might not be the main guy in this game, but I think that, like Mecole Hardman, I think that they're going to have an opportunity in this game, because I think that the Ravens are going to try to take away, well, obviously they're going to try to take away Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but I think that game plan is going to shift very quickly when Mecole Hardman catches a 70-yard touchdown pass on the first drive of the game. I think that's going to change some things. I think they're going to have to reevaluate, kind of like how the Bucs last year played Tyreek Hill man-to-man. It's like, oh, you got to change pretty quickly. But, I think that going into this game, they don't have the personnel to stop Tyreek Hill. I mean, they didn't last year when they had Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. They didn't have that.
That's what I'm going to be interested to watch too. Are they going to press and hope that those safeties can support over the middle? Because if that's the case, then Kelsey's going to eat all day. But if they're playing more zone, and again, I still think Kelsey can eat. That's why I really think it depends on what you're game planning for, because if those corners are playing off, then I think guys like Tyreek will still get some, but it's not going to be as good as it could be. If they're pressing and they're playing tight man-to-man, then yeah, they're going to need that safety help over the top, and man, that's going to be bad for that defense. So I really think it boils down to, can they apply pressure to Patrick Mahomes? And I really kind of paid attention to what they were talking about with our offensive line. Some people are concerned with some of the things they saw. Others were like, hey, this is kind of how they're working and starting to learn. But Patrick Mahomes stayed in the pocket a lot more. And that one of the biggest things that they said Orlando Brown's having to learn is that Patrick Mahomes' steps are a lot deeper than most quarterbacks. So then, he's having to step up in the pocket, and that creates more of a pocket for him. So I think if they can't apply pressure, this game might be pretty good for the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, you have anything else to add about that?
No, not really. I mean, Lucas pretty much covered everything right there. I think Marlon Humphrey is probably someone they have that's capable of covering Kelsey. But if you have Marlon Humphrey on Kelsey for a lot of the game, who else is going to take the responsibility of covering, basically everyone else that the Chiefs have?
Even then, though, I think the mismatch on size, though, Travis Kelce's significantly bigger than Marlon Humphrey. And I get that size isn't everything, but, Travis Kelce has made a living and a name for himself by bullying smaller guys, especially in the linebacking core and in the secondary. I remember a couple years ago against the Raiders, he was killing one of their cornerbacks because the size, you can't compete with, what is Travis Kelce, 6'7", something like that? I mean, you can't stop that. And he is a tremendous route runner. And so when you put it all together, it's just like, good luck stopping him. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me, is if the Ravens can stop Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill, even for a couple quarters, I think that's going to be pretty telltale sign of how this game is going to go, because I honestly am coming from the mindset of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill should not be shut down by this defense. I think that with all the injuries they've suffered and sustained, there's no excuse. If you can do that to the Browns, which have a much healthier and probably a better defense at this point in time, you have to be able to do it against the Ravens. I mean, that's just kind of where I sit.
Yeah. I hope we see more of Jerick McKinnon in this game.
Yeah, I don't know, because, Jerick McKinnon, I think that he got in on one of the drives where they scored a touchdown. Didn't get targeted or anything, but
he had 4 snaps in the first game, and to me that was a little low considering he looked really good in preseason, man. So maybe they're just, and I said this, maybe they're just waiting to unveil him in the offense. But man, I really hope we see more of him.
I think it goes in hand with how we were behind for majority of that game too, and they were starting to be more aggressive on. I mean, yeah,
sticking to what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, because we came out in the third quarter and we really just ran the ball, and that's where I maybe would have expected him. But, it seemed like we got behind and they just went aggressive in the pass game like we're used to. And so maybe if, we do get that 14-point lead and maybe they start doing some interchanging with Clyde and Jerick McKinnon. But, it seemed like to me, Darrell Williams was only in there on third down to block for those long, deep passes and things like that. But Darrell really didn't even get in. And because what was interesting to me is I figured Darrell would have been in on that, and I could be wrong, but I figured Darrell would have been in on that 2-point conversion that we failed on. And I think Clyde was actually in there for that. So, or that could even have been a Jerick McKinnon situation where you have another guy that can run a clean route, and, he could have been that option. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think we need to see more of it, and I just would like to see if maybe we take the lead if that does start getting incorporated.
when you saw they went to the fullback Michael Burton on
Mhm.
that 4th down, so he got it. But I was kind of surprised. I thought that they'd go with Darrell, but if you're going to carry a fullback, that's the instance in which you use him. So I didn't really have too many complaints with that. But yeah, this is going to be a really good game. It's definitely going to be one to watch. Isn't it Sunday Night Football, if I'm correct?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's going to be a pretty good matchup. But I think that we've talked about how this Chiefs team can win a game, or how the Chiefs can win this game. I think that when it really boils down to it, the Chiefs have to come out there like they want to win this game, and they're also going to have to execute and look good. But what do the Ravens have to do to win this game, in your opinion? So why don't we go with Josh first?
First of all, they have to be more efficient on 3rd down than they were against the Raiders. They were like 3 of 12 on 3rd down. They have to be more efficient, and they're gonna have to find someone in that passing game to step up. Because, I mean, we can all agree that if the Ravens want to win this game, they're gonna have to score probably over 30, and they obviously didn't do that against the Raiders. But I want to see who will step up for the Ravens in the passing game. Week 1, Sammy Watkins actually looks pretty good. Will he be the same way against the Chiefs? We'll have to see. I mentioned, though, that Sammy Watkins could take advantage of the Chiefs because he went up against these guys in practice a lot for the past couple of years. He has a big game. But, yeah, I mean, they just got to execute, and they have to play perfect football, really, if they want to beat the Chiefs, because they're going to have to score over 30. And with all the injuries right now, I just don't know if their offense can do it, man.
Well, first of all, Sammy Watkins could stub his toe tomorrow and be out, because that's just kind of what Sammy Watkins is. But, Lucas,
and that's what the Ravens are right now, too.
Yeah, yeah.
They better just put them all in a bubble.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what John Harbaugh is doing at practice. Like, dude, guys are tearing their ACLs like it's nothing. I mean, that's not good. That's kind of reflective either on you or your training staff, because guys should not be tearing their ACL like they're snapping their fingers. It's not good.
No, it's been crazy. It really has. And, I think that's just how football goes. I mean, you guys know that. I mean, injuries can happen at any time. And we saw it with Patrick Mahomes in that Denver game, and you have to have that mentality of next guy up. And, there's nothing that says that they don't believe they can win this game, because I think that they can. But, I think for the Ravens to be able to win, if we can't stop Lamar in the open field, that's going to be concerning to me. And one player that I'm specifically going to keep my eye on for the Ravens is going to be Mark Andrews, because depending on who they have covering him, I know Sorensen likes to cover a lot of the tight ends. Depending on what package we're in, there's a chance because I know L'Jarius Sneed in last week's situation was on the tight end a few times. So I think Mark Andrews for me is going to be the one to watch out for, just because I think he's in those safe situations, that's Lamar's go-to guy. So it'll be interesting to see if they can shut him down. And if they can, then I really think that this is all in Chiefs' favor.
I'll tell you what, maybe Tyrann Mathieu comes back to the NFL and guards Mark Andrews. I think that would probably be a pretty good matchup. But, going over to this, I just thought about this as we were talking. If the Chiefs can't stop the running game of Baltimore, I'm not talking about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's going to get his yards. He's just that good. He's going to escape the pocket a few times. He's going to run and get a few first downs and exploit this Chiefs defense. But I'm really concerned and interested to see if they can stop the Ravens running game with the running backs, because I think that there's no excuse for not being able to stop this depleted Ravens running game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're right. And their offensive line also very underwhelming. The Chiefs' defensive line, if they are what everyone says they are, with Frank Clark coming back, Chris Jones on the end, Jerron Reed in there, Derek Nottie supposedly fully healthy. They don't have Willie Gay still, which will hurt, but Willie Gay doesn't make or break the entire run defense. So I would hope that they show that they're capable of stopping the run in some capacity this game.
But I think to go along with it, that's the whole reason why we drafted Nick Bolton too, was because we know what he's capable of doing in that run defense. And if that's truly the game plan, then Nick Bolton should at least shine a little bit in this. Depending, again, on what package they provide, because if we're having to run a lot of nickel, then it'll be interesting to see if they go Bolton or if they go Neiman. And Neiman actually had an okay game last week. He was in on that fumble. He had that clutch tackle of Kareem Hunt in the open field. And I'm not saying, Ben Neiman's this all be all, but I think, he actually played to a little bit above expectations. And I think, if our guys are doing what they're supposed to in the run game and you force Lamar to pass, I'm excited because I think our secondary is at full capabilities now. And I think you can see, honestly, what we can do as a defense.
I want to see some DeAndre Baker in this game. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
he was inactive last week.
Exactly.
He would have done a hell of a lot better than Ward.
And did we see any Rashad Fenton last week either?
No.
No,
because they really ran a lot of their base package where there was the 4-3, I believe, and the three backers are out there. So, that I think that was a big reason. But if they start going nickel, then you would need a Rashad Fenton or even a DeAndre Baker. And I don't know if they really feel they need that in this game either, because the Lamar Jackson runs, you're going to need that ability to stop the run. So they may go out a lot in the base package again.
I want to see Lamar Jackson beat us with his arm. If he can do that, congrats. The Ravens deserve to win this game. But I don't think it's going to happen. If Lamar Jackson is forced to drop back and throw, let's say 30 to 40 times, they're not going to win this game. I mean, with the receivers that he has, the banged up ones, I know Sammy Watkins is good. I mean, we've seen it before, but Sammy Watkins is also a liability, whether he's going to play or not. And he's definitely not going to play every snap on the offense. And I think that, Lamar Jackson throwing would be the best case scenario for this Chiefs defense, because, hey, maybe we get to see what this the secondary brings in terms of our new corners on the scene. Because, I don't want to say that last week they weren't tested, because they were, but they also didn't have really a ton of success against Baker Mayfield. Like, Njoku had a great game. Jarvis Landry had a great game. I think this could almost be a bounce back game in a sense that, hey, you're going up against a receiving core in the Baltimore Ravens that has nowhere near the talent that the Browns do. And it could be a good rematch, or it could be a good rebound game for the Chiefs defense.
I think it's going to be, you have to have, and this is a statement game too, from a defensive perspective. I think if you can, do really well against this team, I think it sends shots across the bow, honestly, because, I think this is where you need to start showing what you're capable of doing on the defensive side. I mean, I've vouched well in before the season started that this defense could be top 10, and this would be a game to really display that. And, I believe in the secondary when they're healthy, obviously. And, I think one thing I saw today too is that they're going to expect Juan Thornhill to actually play his role that they wanted him to. And I think you could see a little bit of specialness from him too. And I mean, it's going to be amazing to have the Honey Badger back. I mean, we can speak on that so many times just because the leadership, but his ability to just do different things within the game. Like, he may come down in the box. Maybe he is covering Mark Andrews, or, he's blitzing off the edge and stuff like that. It's just, he's such an asset to this defense that, it's going to be so important to have him.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Lucas, you don't agree, but I thought Juan Thornhill played a pretty good game last week. I don't know where you stand on that, but
I went back and watched, and I would have to agree. I think in the beginning he was getting tested, and then I think he settled in. The nerves slowed down, and I think he realized, and he got into it. I was opposite of you guys. I think Charvarius Ward actually played okay. I think there were times where his coverage was spot on. It's just he was going against Jarvis Landry, and Jarvis Landry.
But see, man, that's the story of Charvarius Ward's career. How many times has he been in the perfect place, but somehow just still gets mossed?
But you got to think, I mean, he is he's treated as the one, so he's going against guys that, I mean, Charvarius Ward, if Odell Beckham was playing, I think Charvarius Ward would have been on Odell, and that's
good. God, that would have been bad. That would have been
and so I think
bad.
they treat Ward as the one, and he's going against those guys, and that's just, I mean, there was a perfect example was, I can't remember which, it was an out route, I think it was, and Charvarius Ward had his hand in there and everything, and Jarvis still came up with the catch, and that's just good. I mean, good receivers right there. So it is what it is. I could see both ways. I really could, but I think he had an okay game.
I mean, I just think that I think that with the guys that we have on this defense, and I like Lucas lobbied for this Chiefs defense. I thought they were going to be top 10, and they still can be. It's still very, very early in the season. But I think that the expectation should be at least to be top 15. And with that being said, they have the personnel. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. They have the personnel to be top 15. It's just, can they put it together? And then I don't know where you stand on this, but I think they have everything in place to be as good as we think that they can be. It's going to take some time. And, I think Josh, he said it on Twitter, we shouldn't have to wait. But, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, I heard a lot of people say they should have been a top 10 defense last year. And I'm just like, but how? Because I never saw it. I think they added some more contributors this offseason. Marginally, though. I don't know if they can be top 10. Top 15, definitely. Top 10 might still be quite a stretch because I still have questions like, if Chris Jones isn't doing anything on the D-line, who is? Like, who's going to get the pass rush? Because Chris Jones looked great in that last game, but he was the only one in that game to record a sack. It's not going to be Frank Clark.
I tell you, though, like, in all seriousness, though, man, I want to go back to this just because, like, I think Frank will allow like guys like Reed to start getting exposed. Like, and I mean that in a positive way. Like Reed can be in on more plays and they went against a very good offensive line.
They did.
And we're about to go against one that is kind of beat up and there are a lot of question marks. So are guys like Reed going to be in on some of these plays where maybe last week he was just going against a very good offensive lineman? And, I think with Frank Clark maybe being able to help out in the run, whether it's not applying the pressure, but, kind of being out in space where he can maybe make a tackle, hopefully. But I think that's what it opens it up and allows them to get some of those other guys more incorporated into the game. And that's what I think Frank Clark does. I don't think he's worth $100 million, and I've been vocal on that, but I think he can apply some things that'll help out with other guys where for Chris Jones, maybe he's not getting doubled or, maybe it assists in the linebackers kind of getting spread out too and getting down into this offensive line and blocking the hole. So we'll see.
Well, honestly, I hope. Go ahead.
Well, if this defense wants to be top 15 or top 10, like they've got to, like we talked about, stop the run, because after this past game, they're like the worst team in the league run defense wise. And I don't think Frank Clark takes them from the 32nd run D to, like the 20th something run D. It's also going to come down to linebacker gap discipline. I don't think we saw a lot of that in this past game. And Derek Nottie also, he graded out really poorly according to PFF, but also he's still coming off that hip flexor injury. And he's obviously their best run-stopping defensive tackle, so we'll have to see what happens there. I also saw Jerron Reed get put on the ground a few times, which was surprising. So, if this defense is going to be top 10, the run defense has to come together, and it's going to take contributions from everybody.
See, I think it will. I think our run defense will improve dramatically. I think it's just going to be, can the secondary keep up with that? Because if you're stopping the run, then you're going to force the pass, and then you're going to have to really be better on that secondary and continuously get better in that secondary. And I think we've mentioned this multiple times. It seems like when we're in week 10, that's where this defense is really clicking on a full cylinders, and we're seeing it go. And hopefully by then they are fit top 15 and they can progressively continue to get better. So that's going to be my thing. I think the defense does get better in the run defense just because you're starting to get healthier and healthier, as long, fingers crossed, no other injuries happen.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like I'm not really worried about the linebacking core. Once we get Willie Gay back, I think this unit's going to be crazy. You got Willie Gay, Anthony Hitchens, Nick Bolton. That's a pretty good unit. And I think the secondary, with the addition of Tyrann Mathieu coming back, they're going to be fine. But what concerns me, and Josh said it earlier, it's that outside of Chris Jones, I mean, the front four has got to get pressure. And outside of Chris Jones, I mean, I hope it's Frank Clark, but you cannot expect Frank Clark to do anything. Anything that he does is a bonus, but you cannot have any good expectations for him. Go into the season thinking he's going to get one sack. Maybe he underperforms that. Maybe he overperforms that. We don't really know. I mean, at this point, he doesn't have a sack. He hasn't played a game, but I think the expectations for him are so low, and really the expectations for the D-line outside of Chris Jones are very, very low. So it's just like somebody's going to have to answer the call and become that second guy. And honestly, I wish Taco Charlton was on this team. I was a big Taco Charlton fan, but someone else besides Chris Jones is at least going to have to get to the quarterback.
Well, let me
Could have
ask you
had Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, he's a freak. But let me ask you this in all seriousness. If you guys are taking him like the way you are with Frank Clark and you have very low expectations, would your thought be that these other, these NFL teams are taking him lightly as well? Because if that's the case, then I do think Frank can perform. I mean, there was a reason we traded for him and gave him the money we did. I mean, there legitimately was a reason. We saw what he was capable of doing to some degree in Seattle. So if a lot of these teams are taking him lightly the way you guys are saying, then I think, and those low expectations are set and they're like, we don't have to do this with Frank Clark. Maybe there's a chance we see something out of him and we're like, hot dang, man, that's what we really expected. I mean, I get what you guys are saying. I really 100% do. And I'm not the biggest Frank Clark advocate, but I think that to some degree he can apply something that will help this football team, specifically the defense, and really kind of shine at times.
See, here's my counter argument to that. And I'm not even a Frank Clark hater like Josh. Josh could go off for 5 to 10 minutes and just bury this dude into the ground. But really quickly, getting back to that, I think that NFL teams can underestimate Frank Clark because you watch him on film for 5 minutes. He does the same 3 moves over and over and over again. So it's just like, maybe if he switched it up, sure, he could be a surprise. But it's that you kind of know what he's going to do because he doesn't switch it up. And I also think, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I thought that initially Frank Clark was I'm going to earn my money kind of guy. I'm going to show what I have, and I'm going to go out there every week and raise hell. And I feel like over the past year, ever since he got paid, he hasn't really been the same Frank Clark. And I don't know if it's because he's just like, all right, I got paid. I'm in the driver's seat. I can just sit back and sit on this team and just coast. But, I think that's why you can underestimate Frank Clark, because he hasn't really shown anything that would lead you to believe that, hey, we got to kind of take him seriously.
Frank Clark doesn't even have to get 10 sacks this year, although that would be welcomed.
Awesome.
He just needs to show that he's getting pressure, man. Like if if Frank Clark is noticeably on my screen, like getting really close or getting his hand on the ball and causing a fumble or something like that, and he's just like powering through these tackles, and they really should be getting holding calls because Frank Clark is so hard to block. I would love to see that, but Frank Clark had the 53rd best pressure rate out of all NFL defensive linemen last year. 53rd. Also, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was for, I forget if it was for like Sunday night games, but they would have like the starting defense and the starting offense, like their graphics on the screen. They would have
like PFF graded.
Their PFF rank. Yeah. Frank Clark, 98 out of 101 players graded. You've got come on, Clark, step it up.
Oh my gosh, Josh went
hey Josh, all I gotta say to that is he wasn't last.
Pretty close.
God, the expectations were so incredibly low.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. I'm gonna see if I can find the picture.
Gosh.
I love just being the advocate against it because I love getting Josh fired up.
That's a good thing. We need that aspect of, hey, like he's not all bad, even though there's not much redeemable qualities about him. I mean, there's got to be something, but yeah, I mean, hopefully this is a Frank Clark coming out party, but because it's like, if he can't do it against this Ravens team, who's he going to do it against? I mean, it's just
and that's my thing too, is if he's going to be going against not necessarily a starter, because it just depends on which side, they decide to line him up on. I mean, if he's going against a backup, you would hope that there's some, not necessarily pressure, but again, something that can be applied to where some of the other guys get free.
I don't know if you can read that. I have it from
think
last year.
Does 99
of 106.
That says winner.
99 of 106. No, it doesn't.
That says elite.
It says champion. Oh my god.
Am I wrong?
It says It says got an A+ on the group project, but didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Hey, if he gets a sack,
what it
am I
said.
wrong for saying that a boy Uzi?
Oh my god.
Please don't.
Oh, I think that'd be called for though. I mean, I don't know. To each his own, but
He's
yeah,
coming out. He's coming out the gate like an Uzi.
honestly, and one thing, and Josh said it. It just if you can just break through, if you can beat your man like a third of the time, I would be happy. It's just like it seems like he just gets stuffed every single down, and it almost gets to a point where he just doesn't try. It's just like, all right, I'm gonna get stuffed again. They figured out my swim move.
Like that.
Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, there was one play too against the and sorry, this is kind of becoming a Frank Clark hate show, and I feel responsible. But
It's all right. It's fun.
there was the first Broncos game in Denver when it was snowing. If you guys remember, there was one play where Frank Clark recovered a fumble because it was the play where Melvin Gordon, I think it was like a flea flicker. He tossed it back to Drew Lock, but it went over Drew Lock's head, and Frank Clark picks up the fumble. But the only reason he was there to pick up the fumble was because the tackle pushed him so far out of the play because Frank Clark was trying to run around the tackle. That's the only reason he was there.
But that's what I'm saying. What if Lamar decides, hey, I'm going to run this way, and Frank Clark is just there because he got pushed so far out? See what I'm saying, Josh? You can't discredit my guy.
All right, getting away from Frank Clark, because we could talk about this for days. Why don't we go over our final predictions for this game? Starting with why don't we go Josh, just because Lucas seems like he needs some time to think.
I haven't even thought of this.
So I'm going with 34-20, which was the same score from the game last year. Like I said, I think the Chiefs kind of take their foot off the gas and the Ravens score some points late, but the Chiefs will already have pretty much the game wrapped up by then. I think they're going to score over 34-20, which was like I said, the score from this game last year. I think it's a reasonable one for this game this time around too. I mean, the Ravens are a respectable opponent, but there's really no reason the Chiefs shouldn't win this game. I mean, they're just so depleted, and they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, though, like I said, with house money, because no one feels like they can win this game. But ultimately, the Chiefs, they got to win this game, and they will.
What'd you say again?
For your score.
Me?
Yeah. What was your score again?
34-20 Chiefs.
Okay.
Do you want me to go, Lucas, or do you want to take it over?
Go ahead. I want to hear yours too, because I kind of got something.
All right. So I think this is going to be a great game. The Chiefs over the past couple of years have owned the Baltimore Ravens, and those teams in the past, in my opinion, have been a lot better. The Ravens in 2019 and 2020 were really, really good. And not saying that this team isn't, but with the injuries that they have, it's really hard for me to pick against the Chiefs. Normally, I mean, if these guys are going at it fully healthy, I'm still picking the Chiefs. But, with all the injuries that Baltimore has sustained, it's just that's just another reason why the Chiefs are going to win this game. And last year, the Ravens were fully healthy, and the Chiefs beat them 34-20. So it's just I think that coming into this game, the Chiefs are going to take it seriously. I think this is also a game that they're going to try to experiment with some things. I think that maybe we see, maybe we see Mecole Hardman get a couple catches for some big gains. Maybe he puts up 100 yards. I'm not too sure. Maybe Clyde breaks off in this game because they try to take away Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill. But, in reality, I think that Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are going to have great games like they did in all of the previous matchups. For my final score, I'm going to go with 42-24. I think that the Chiefs are going to put up a 40 burger. I think that, dude, when you look at it, if the Chiefs come out as strong as I believe that they will, the Ravens don't have the defense to stop them. Not anymore. And I think that the Chiefs are going to try to stick it to them. I mean, like they've done in the past couple years. And I think that, if I am off with my final score, Chiefs are at least putting up 30. I mean, maybe 35-24. I mean, I just see the Chiefs coming out and really trying to win this game. And they're going to show up early. And I think we're going to see a lot of touchdown passes. Maybe Mahomes throws 3 to 4. I can see him throwing 4, maybe 500 yards in this game. I think that when you see Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes go up against each other, I think that Patrick Mahomes, in a way, is insulted that this is even called a rivalry because of what he has done to this franchise over the past 3 years. And I think that 2021 is not going to change anything. So Give me 42-24 Chiefs, and we're going to be celebrating on Sunday night.
I got to write this down. I'm going to go 33-27 Chiefs.
Okay, interesting.
My reasonings behind it is the only time I see us scoring big-time points is if it's a shootout. And I think that this is one of those games, again, if we get up and we get progressively ahead, we see, typical Andy pull off the gas. We see Clyde and some of those guys starting to run the football a little more. And I'm hoping that it doesn't come down to where, late in the game, the Ravens are driving and they're slowly creeping back into this. And I think that's why I'm going to kind of go 33-27, just because I think that there's a chance, we get up 14, maybe even, who knows, 17-0. And that's where the Chiefs kind of start to let up a little bit. We've seen Andy do it multiple times. And
yeah.
So I'm going to go 33-27.
Who knows, though? Maybe the Ravens come out, and if they get the ball first, maybe they score, and maybe they do have a lead. And in that case, I'm even more sorry for Lamar Jackson, because Patrick Mahomes is going to come back, and he's gonna try to stick it to him. So, I mean, either way, we all have the Chiefs winning, and I think that, it could be close, but I can't see it being close. I think
it shouldn't be close.
Yeah, if it is close, maybe we come back on Sunday night and be like, hey, we got some concerns, because it should not have remotely been this close. But, we're going to leave it to the Chiefs, and I think that they're going to come out in this game and kind of show the world that, hey, we're still the top dog in the AFC, and Baltimore really has never been able to beat us. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Do you have any closing thoughts, either one of you?
No, I'm good.
This is a game I could see Patrick Mahomes throwing for 4 touchdowns, though, too. I mean, I really could. And I think, these are the games, if he truly wants to break that record, I think these are the games you're going to have to get, a decent amount of touchdowns and yards from him. So I could see him throwing for 4. And it'll be interesting to see if that's how they approach the game, too, is if they just want to air raid this thing.
Yeah, I think that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are all going to put up great numbers. But with that being said, guys, we've hit that hour mark. Where can the people find you? Why don't we go with Josh first?
You can find me at showmefootball.com for my website, or you can follow me on Twitter at showmefb, or my personal if you want to, joshfan43, which is just my name plus 43. And then, of course, you can subscribe to me on YouTube, just typing in Josh Fan to your search bar.
Lucas?
I do want to thank again everybody in the comment section for the birthday wishes. It means a ton. Thank you so much. It really does. It means a lot. Turning 33. And also, guys, I put out week 2 matchup previews and predictions for the entire NFL over at the YouTube channel, The Beat of Kansas City. You can also find me at The Beat of Kansas City on Twitter, Instagram, and those are my main hangout spots. So appreciate the support over there too, guys. It means a lot.
And for the show and for me, you can follow at KC Sports Report on Twitter, KC_Sports Report on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, but I'd assume most of the people here have. And we'll be here hopefully Sunday night following the game to break this down together. But it could be a wild night in which it could get over at 11 o'clock, and we all got to get our videos out. So maybe we come back on Monday, but hopefully we can come back on Sunday. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching this video and this live stream, and we'll see you hopefully on Sunday night, but have a great rest of your Thursday night.
See you guys.